Let's take it back to the trade negotiations, and we are watching, of course, all the developments between U.S. and China. The back and forth continues. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi speaking to U.S. Ambassador China yesterday, urging the U.S. to roll back, quote, negative measures against China. And in France, China's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao addressing the World Trade Organization, calling on the WTO to strengthen supervision over attempts to impose unilateral tariffs.
I want to stress again that pressuring and coercing China is not the correct way to engage with us. We urge the United States to respect the facts, stop spreading false information, correct its erroneous actions, and take concrete steps to maintain the consensus reached between our two sides.
Meanwhile, the White House reiterating that Presidents Xi and Trump will be speaking shortly.
Well, I can assure you that the administration is actively monitoring China's compliance with the Geneva Trade Agreement. As you all know, and I know there's a lot of interest in it, there will be a leader-to-leader talk very soon.
One key part of this is critical minerals and China's dominance in the industry. President Trump said last week that China has been slow to ease its export ban on critical minerals, which is in violation of their Geneva deal. Reuters now reporting that Trump is making moves to increase American production of critical minerals by using emergency powers and waiving legal requirements. Meantime, higher U.S. metal tariffs are set to kick in just a couple of hours, midnight Eastern time. The doubled 50% levy will apply to all American imports of steel and aluminum, except for the UK, which continues to face a 25% tariff as the country only managed to strike the only country managing to strike a deal with the U.S. Canada and Mexico also asking for reprieve as the two of top three importers into the U.S. market. The Trump administration has urged its trading partners to put forward their best offers for a trade deal by Wednesday. The OECD says Trump's trade war is weighing on the global economy. The organization revising its global growth outlook downward to 2.9% this year from 3.1% previously.
The context is the significantly increased economic and trade policy uncertainty, tighter financial conditions, lower business and consumer confidence, and the impact it has on investment and activity that we're observing, which has led to this downgrade in our economic growth outlook.
The OECD says tariffs will hit the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and China the hardest and has downgraded those growth outlooks the most. China's growth is expected to moderate to 4.7% in 2025 and 4.3% in 2026. The organization warns growth could be even weaker if protectionism increases further. Stephen Roach is a senior fellow at Yale Law School and joins us now live stateside. Stephen, a very good evening, and thank you for joining us today. And it's really timely to have you join us here, of course, as we continue to watch the developments between U.S. and China and this imminent phone call between the two presidents. But of course, we also want to talk about the U.S.-China conflict and how it has impacted Hong Kong, which you know very well. You've written about it and you've revised your declaration saying that Hong Kong now is benefiting because of its position as China's window to international finance. You had earlier said that Hong Kong is over, not necessarily the case now. Give us your outlook for Hong Kong.
Well, thanks for having me on, Emily. Hong Kong is a wonderful city, but it's still facing several key challenges. One has to do with domestic governance, which remains under a big shadow and has been for a number of years. Secondly, is the tight linkage to the Chinese economy. I think the Chinese economic outlook is very challenged right now for some of the reasons that the OECD mentioned in its downgrade. And as China goes, so goes Hong Kong. The one area that I'm more optimistic on today than I was 15 months ago when I wrote that piece in the Financial Times that Hong Kong was over is the U.S.-China conflict. I wrote that that Hong Kong will be trapped or caught in the headwinds, the crossfire between the U.S. And China. And I think it's now safe to say, with the Hang Seng having surged by 50% since January of 2024, that Hong Kong has actually benefited from this conflict as Chinese companies and other Asian companies have turned to Hong Kong for capital raising, and global investors have been selling America, and that puts the Hong Kong financial system in more of a sweet spot than I thought. But, you know, the other issues that I've worried about and written a lot about are still very worrisome looking forward.
Just want to bring everybody up to speed as we're watching the inauguration of Korea's new president. He says that he will respond to public calls for building a completely new country. The new president, Lee Jae-myung, vows economic growth and says it's time to restore democracy after a martial law crisis. Lee says rapidly shifting global environments such as growing protectionism are posing a risk to the country, and that he will operate emergency task force on the economy immediately. So we are looking at live pictures coming through from the National Assembly in Korea as a new president is sworn in. This is his inauguration ceremony following more than 49% vote for him in yesterday's election. Now, Stephen, if we can continue our discussion here, you were talking about the Hong Kong stock market, and I do take note of the year-to-date gain. We are up something like 17%. I got a chance to speak to Bonnie Chan from Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing just last week down at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And if you could join me in listening in on what she had to say about the moves on the Hong Kong market.
Even though we experienced on the so-called Liberation Day quite a big volatility, but the market remained very orderly, and that's the resilience that was clearly demonstrated. I think since then, what we've seen are a few trends. I think, first of all, there is now a very strong renewed interest for global investors to look at Chinese assets, and we have since then welcomed a few very big IPOs, including, obviously, you were reporting on that, the CATL IPO, which is the biggest in the world this year. Our volume has also stayed very strong, and so year to date, our ADT is at about 240-50 billion Hong Kong dollars, and so I think all in all, we're quite pleased with the direction of travel.
Stephen, the tight linkages that Hong Kong has with that of China, do you see that more beneficial than harmful?
No, I don't. I mean, it has been for quite some time, but as China has moved to a slower growth trajectory, Emily, over the past dozen years, Hong Kong has moved in lockstep with China. And I think going forward, again, I just go back to your previous comments on the OEC downgrade. We're in the midst of a global tariff war. A phone call between two leaders is not going to end it by any stretch of the imagination, and that's going to take a further toll on the Chinese economy, and then by connection, the Hong Kong economy. And I think Hong Kong is going to be very, very challenged as the trade war takes a broader toll.
You don't have any optimism towards this potential phone call? We've heard now from 3 government officials that the leaders are going to be talking soon. Most recently, it was the press secretary, Leavitt.
Yeah, well, look, I would have to say of all the official spokespeople around the world who speak on behalf of their governments, she has the least credibility of any of them, and so I would certainly not take her word or her promise as a ray of hope as to what is going to happen in a leader-to-leader phone call, nor would I take her views on the so-called agreement that was reached in Geneva. There was no agreement reached in Geneva. There was a framework that was discussed for future negotiations, and now, we have both sides claiming that the other has violated the spirit of the Geneva Accord. So, I think there's still an awful lot of unfinished business on the plate from both sides, and the charges and countercharges have not eased up in any way whatsoever.
Today is June the 4th here in Hong Kong, and a statement was issued by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. If I can read some of that for you, he says, "Today we commemorate the bravery of the Chinese people who were killed as they tried to exercise their fundamental freedoms, as well as continue to suffer persecution as they seek accountability and justice for the events of June the 4th, 1989. Now, here in Hong Kong, the annual candlelight vigils to memorialize this no longer take place because of the national security law. Just over the years, you've spent time living here in Hong Kong. How has Hong Kong changed?
Well, it's changed dramatically, especially since 2019 and 2020, that really saw the imposition of the new national security law from Beijing, then followed by Hong Kong's own Article 2023, and that's certainly set the stage for a lot of political pressure, in particular on the Hong Kong press, and on some very high-profile trials for subversion that took place. And I was in Hong Kong exactly a year ago today, and I on the one hand, you walk the streets and everything looks the same, but you talk to your friends, you go to meetings, and I think there's a lot of concern that remains in the air and is still very, very present in today's Hong Kong. So it's a very different place now, Emily.
You say you were here in Hong Kong about a year ago. What would bring you back to the city? Do you still come to visit?
Yeah, I love Hong Kong. I lived there, worked there, and have a lot of good friends there. Have a lot of interest in Hong Kong. I was not convinced that I'd be welcome back after having written this article in the Financial Times in February of last year, saying Hong Kong was over. But I certainly give many of the wise men and wise women of Hong Kong credit for being open and willing to debate the issues that I posed, and I think many of them still, in their heart of hearts, feel that there are some big challenges out there that need to be raised, and they all take heart in the big bounce back in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange or the Hang Seng Index, and yet without the fundamentals and with challenges to the rule of law and governance, there's still some big questions that need to be addressed.
We're watching here in Hong Kong as the United States is revoking visas for Chinese and Hong Kong students studying in the United States. We're watching the impact of the reactions over at Harvard. Do you think that Hong Kong will be able to benefit from this? So we've seen a huge talent drain following the COVID pandemic. Could this be something that would benefit Hong Kong? It would basically have the star talent, star students coming to Hong Kong rather than going to the United States.
Well, let me first say that I think it's just a a very tragic development in the U.S. To see an American administration turn on its educational system, repress our own freedom of speech, and go after not just Harvard, but other elite universities. And now to put the squeeze on foreign students, I work at Yale, and one of the great things about Yale is the international character of its student body. I've taught hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese students, Chinese American students at Yale over the years, and they bring a different perspective and energy, a vibrancy to the classroom that is unparalleled. And will they all go to Hong Kong? No. Some might go to Hong Kong, some might go to a variety of other destinations around the world. Hong Kong has some excellent universities, and so it would be in Hong Kong's interest to make an effort to attract students who might otherwise seek higher education in the U.S. But I think it's much more of a problem for the United States than I would say is an opportunity for Hong Kong or any other single market for higher education.
Stephen, thank you very much for spending the time and sharing your insights with us. So let's please do it again soon. We've been speaking with Stephen Roach from Yale University. As we head into a break, we'll leave you with a look at how currencies are trading in early Asian trade. The China Connection will be right back.